You know what's worse than losing a husband? Losing him, and then being hunted down by his mother's church army, because she decided I was the devil. But here's the thing about people who pretend to be holy: when you pull back the curtain, the truth burns them faster than fire. This is the story of how my ex-mother-in-law sent her church friends to attack my daughters, and how I made her the town pariah, all without breaking a single law. I'm a 46-year-old single mom with 2 daughters. We were already healing from a nightmare, the sudden death of my ex-husband, who, as I later discovered, had been living a double life. He died in a car accident last year, leaving behind not just us, but 2 sons from his affair partner. She died in the same crash. And while I was trying to hold my girls together through grief, betrayal, and trauma, my ex's parents, the saintly church-going types, decided they wanted custody of my daughters. They said I wasn't spiritual enough to raise them. They wanted to bring the girls to their home, to their church, and raise them properly, but their idea of proper meant guilt, manipulation, and control. So I told them no. Firmly. That's when the war began. A few months later, on a warm Saturday, we went to the local farmers market, one of the few places my girls and I could still relax together. It was my youngest's birthday, so I gave her some money and told her to buy anything she wanted: chocolate, candy, snacks, whatever made her happy. An hour later, my phone rang. It was her. And she was crying. "Mom, some ladies won't let me leave," she sobbed. My heart dropped. I ran across the market with my oldest daughter, pushing through the crowd, and there they were. 6 older women, surrounding my crying 15-year-old. And I recognized them. Every single one. They were members of my ex-mother-in-law's church. They were waving their hands, scolding her, calling her UN Christian, and telling her she was a disgrace for refusing to visit her poor grandparents. One of them actually said she should be ashamed for not being a big sister to her orphaned baby brothers. Let me tell you something. My daughters were the ones who discovered their father's affair. They saw the photos, the messages, everything. They were traumatized. They are in therapy for it. And now these women were guilt-tripping her about his loved children. I saw red. I marched straight up to that circle and got between them and my daughter. Back. Away. Now, I told them. My voice shook, but not from fear, from fury. One of them smirked. "You're the mother, right? Maybe if you were a better Christian wife, your husband wouldn't have strayed." I swear, my fists clenched so hard I could feel my nails digging into my palms. I told my eldest, "Go pay for your sister's things. Take her to the car." Then I turned back to the so-called church ladies and said, "You want to preach morality? Maybe start by not harassing a teenage girl in public." They kept shouting, louder, until the market staff had to ask us to leave. As I walked to the car, they followed me like vultures circling a carcass. I slammed the car door, hands trembling, and drove away with my girls sobbing quietly in the back seat. That night, when they were asleep, I logged onto Facebook and found out where the poison was coming from. My ex-mother-in-law had posted a long, tear-soaked story in her church's private Facebook group, accusing me and my daughters of being heartless, unchristian, and greedy. She claimed we stole her son's inheritance, that we abandoned his poor parents, and, the best part, that the 2 baby boys were our surrogate children, and I rejected them because they were boys. I sat there, staring at my screen, shaking. It wasn't just a lie, it was a smear campaign. And it worked. Dozens of church members were commenting, praying for her, calling me a Jezebel and a disgrace. That's when something inside me snapped. "You want a war, old lady? Fine. Let's play." The next morning, I went to a print shop with a flash drive and a smile. On it, I had everything: photos of my ex and his affair partner, kissing in our living room. Screenshots of his messages to her. Texts from his parents, yes, the same holy grandparents, encouraging him to hide the affair and work it out privately. Emails from them bullying me during the divorce. And the final nail, a message they sent my daughters, calling them bastards and blaming them for their father's death, 2 days after his funeral. I printed everything. High quality. Color. Clear. Then I spent all afternoon creating little church hymn booklets. They looked exactly like the prayer packets their church handed out at services, with one small twist. When you opened it, the first page was a full-page photo of my ex and his mistress kissing, with the title, A Love Story, ex-husband's name, and affair partner's name. Every page after that. Screenshots. Messages. Emails. Lies and hypocrisy, all neatly organized like a devotional. Sunday morning, I walked into that church with my head held high. No one even looked twice as I placed my special hymn packets on the back table with all the others. And then I left. By Monday, my phone was blowing up. Apparently, the gossip hit the congregation like a bomb. The same people who once called me a failed wife were now tearing into my ex-in-laws for covering up their son's cheating. Even the pastor had to post a reminder about forgiveness and not bearing false witness. My ex-mother-in-law tried to defend herself, saying I faked everything, but the proof was undeniable. Screenshots, dates, timestamps, and all. Within a week, she and my ex-father-in-law stopped showing up to church altogether. The final cherry on top. A few church members actually mailed apology letters to my daughters, apologizing for believing the lies. One even invited us to return to the light and join the congregation for healing. Oh, the irony. Meanwhile, my ex-mother-in-law posted a public rant about how cruel people are to the elderly and how her perfect son would have taken care of her if he was still alive. Right? With whose money? Because, newsflash, I was the breadwinner. There's something almost poetic about watching someone who weaponized faith be destroyed by the truth. She wanted the church to shame me. Instead, she became the outcast. The whispers followed her everywhere. And I didn't even need to raise my voice. All I had to do was show people the truth she tried to bury. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just quietly prints receipts in color. Some people hide behind religion like a shield, pretending they're righteous while they ruin others. But sooner or later, masks slip. And when they do, the light burns brighter than any sermon ever could.